Welcome everybody, my name is Michael and today is another personal finance video. This may be even more important than my cryptocurrency content, so I encourage all of you to watch the video for at least a few minutes and decide whether it's worth your time. Today we're discussing about the 4% rule. What is it? It's called the safe withdrawal rate. It's basically how much you can withdraw from your investments in the future. If you're saving right now, if you're just getting out of college, if you're thinking about investing in cryptocurrency, or even if you are investing in cryptocurrency, you start a retirement account, you're thinking about getting a new house, or maybe you're thinking of switching your career path. This may not be something you're thinking about right now, but this is very important if you ever want to retire earlier than 65 years old. Or if you're a digital nomad or you're thinking about moving abroad, you can definitely do this a lot faster. You don't have to retire, but you can retire, quote unquote, from your career if you're doing something like corporate work that you don't want to be in for the rest of your life. Let's say you want to open an ice cream shop, or you want to sell cryptocurrency, or you want to be a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer, whatever you want. You could still live a pretty healthy lifestyle without changing a lot of things. But if you move outside of America, just as I have moved outside of America and I've been living in Europe for the past 4 years, there's a lot of cheaper things over here. So we're going to be going off of the rate 4%, and we're going to be discussing using around $40,000, because annually you can definitely survive on $40,000 per year if you're living in America. Obviously, it's going to depend on which state you live in, the quality of that life for $40,000, but it is possible in every single state. Because I'm taking this advice from someone I follow who used to live in San Diego for $36,000 per year. They drove a crappy car, and now they're a millionaire in their 30s. Why? Because they were extremely frugal. They're an entrepreneur. They paid themselves very little, and the real payout came when they sold their company. So obviously you're probably not going to take this route. It's a path that very few people are successful in, but you don't have to retire in your 30s. You can retire in your 40s, 50s, or not even retire, but just change a career path and still be living off of your investments, and whatever extra cash flows in, then perfect. You're going to have a better quality of life. So a lot of us, since we're invested in cryptocurrency, I think personal finance should be an important addition to our cryptocurrency investments, but it doesn't always go hand in hand. And I take this from personal experience, being someone who made over $100,000 before in cryptocurrency, and I was crap at money management. I knew what personal finance was going on about. I knew about all the rules. I was listening and learning, but I never really followed through all the way. And that's partly one of the reasons why I lost all my money and why I fell into debt. And now I'm getting back out of debt. And hopefully we are never, ever back in that position again. The number one goal is financial independence. It doesn't matter if you're working, but mainly you probably don't want to be working for somebody, a boss who's making a whole lot more than you. You're slaving away, the whole rat race. That's not your American dream right there. And as somebody who has lived abroad before and has made a fair bit of money, I know some people are going to complain, oh, you can't live off of $40,000 per year in New York City. You could if you really wanted to be super frugal, no car, no crazy expenses, and maybe that's not the life for you. So if you want, you can have a car, you can have a house, you can live a perfectly normal life, you can order sushi and buy cigars. If you live in Ukraine, if you live in Poland like I am, these are relatively safe countries. There's not a whole lot going on, but if you wanted to be a little bit more adventurous, you could definitely move to Mexico or Thailand. Portugal is a beautiful country, it's a safe country, and it's pretty cheap for Americans to move over there. And they also have this thing called the Golden Visa, but we're not going to be discussing about where you could potentially move, because this is possible whether you're staying in America or whether you're moving out. The only point that I want to drive through is that if you move out of America, it's going to be a lot easier to live a better quality of life. Or if you live in a high cost of living area right now, move to a low cost of living area. For example, if you live in Illinois, in New York City, in California, you move maybe to Nevada, you move to Florida, Texas, Iowa, Kentucky, Idaho, I don't know. There's plenty of states and cities where the costs are half or even more. You can save more money, you can spend more money, you can invest more money, you can do all this without having to stress. So once you have enough money invested in either cryptocurrency or in a retirement funds or in real estate or in the stock market, Every single investment, as long as it's properly invested and it's low risk and you're managing it every single year, you're going to have some profits coming in, right? So a lot of people who are irresponsible will spend these profits. They're going to buy themselves a new house, a new car, and the really wealthy, the old generations, are going to reinvest all this wealth and live off of only a small percentage. So you don't have to be a billionaire. You could still take this sage advice even with $1 million or $2 million. And that might sound crazy for someone who's in their 20s or 30s right now, but it is most definitely possible, especially with the rate of returns that we have in cryptocurrency. This might happen in the next 10 years, in the next 15. It might even happen next year if you invested in some NFTs and suddenly, bam, you put in $100, you have $50,000. You never know when it could happen. And especially if you make a lot of money very quickly. You have to understand to diversify into low risk, safe investments that you can withdraw from, that they're rather liquid. So we're just going to be using the example of index funds because they're a lot more safer than cryptocurrency. Obviously, I encourage many people to invest in cryptocurrency, but maybe if you have a lot of money in cryptocurrency, you put half of that back into index funds, and they're comfortably going to be growing anywhere from 5 to 6 to 9, 10% per year on average compound interest, and before you know it, you have hundreds of thousands of dollars you're dealing with. So there was this 4% number that came from the Trinity study. Researchers looked at stocks and bonds and a reasonable portfolio of them and concluded that if you withdrew 4% per year or less, adjusted for inflation every single year, in only 2 out of those 30 years, your portfolio would hit zero. And these 2 years out of the 30 were the worst years possible. So the market on average has returned over 10% every single year. There's a lot of volatility baked into that, and this depends on when you're going to withdraw this money. If there's a bad 5-year run, taking out 10%, you're likely to go broke eventually. 10% is too high. If you only take out 1%, it could be too low, and then something happens, a crisis, an emergency, and you decide, let me withdraw. It turns out to be a bad moment, so the sweet spot is in between, around 4%. It could be 5%, it could be 3%, depending on your situation. But over the long-term period, 4% out of your total investments, that withdrawal rate would lead to a sustainable lifestyle for you. Now, if the next great recession or depression arrives, you can definitely take out a little bit less, or you could take out more if you see that certain stocks aren't performing that well. You could take out less than 2% if you're able to live off of that. So if you have a few $1 million, but you're thinking around that $40,000 range, you could take out less than 4% and have more money reinvested, have all those profits going back in, and it's going to grow, and that 4% or 2% or 1% or however much you're living off of will result in more money coming in every single year as your portfolio keeps growing. Now, it's advised that you don't take out the entire 4% sum out at the very beginning of the year because that's never too smart. Just as in cryptocurrency, you have no idea what's going to happen next month, 6 months from now, 12 months from now. So it's best to establish the 4% number and take out maybe once every 3 months, maybe once every 2 months, maybe every month. This is going to depend on your situation, and as with every personal finance rule out there, there's so many variables that you can only know exactly if you do the math yourself. You calculate what your potential profits could be, what your potential expenses will be wherever you're going to be living, what you can adjust to reduce the cost of living, what can you do to increase the amount that you're putting in every single month or taking out every single month. But we're discussing about a situation where in the future, you're more interested in taking out than putting in because you want to retire, or you already reached a certain goal, whether that's $1 million, $2 million, $5, $10 million. Maybe your goal is, okay, I have finally enough money to upgrade my house. So you take out a certain amount, but you don't take it out all at once. Rich people, even though they can afford to buy houses, usually still take out loans for those houses if they give them favorable rates. And you can pay off the loans as long as it's favorable rates with that 4% that you're taking out every single month. $40,000 to an American might sound crazy, but $10,000 or even less is what the average Polish person needs to survive. And I've been doing that. There's been months where it costs $500 to live. And Ukraine's even cheaper, and Mexico and certain countries are even cheaper than that. You'd be surprised how many people around the world live off of just a few $1,000s per year. It's absolutely astonishing. I have a car, I have internet, I order sushi, I maybe smoke a cigar once a year. Don't really have to do it. If I wanted to, I could go out to the movie theaters or just do whatever I want, and everything's okay. Maybe I have a crap car, but that's because I want to invest my money into cryptocurrency. I have more important aspects that I want to park my money in, let my money work for me, than buy a better car or spend money on something that it's going to be valueless. It's going to be depreciating. I don't need that stuff. I don't need liabilities. So using this example, if you have $1 million with 4%, you can take out $40,000 per year and live comfortably off of that. If you need more money, don't take it out of the withdrawals. Have a part-time job or have a secondary gig or something. If you only need an extra few $1,000s per year, you can come up with that pretty easily. For example, if you're a teacher, if you used to teach at high school math, you can be an online tutor and make a whole bunch of money, especially with this whole pandemic. There's been a lot of teachers that have doubled or tripled what they were used to be making because tutors get paid a lot. And I tried it out myself, teaching English. I wasn't a big fan, but it is certainly possible. There was a lot of attention. A lot of people were calling me. I don't like working with that. I don't like working with kids, but I definitely got paid way more than the average Polish person. So it all depends on your situation. If you don't like $40,000 per year, but you don't want to move abroad and you move to a already cheap state, maybe suck it up for the next few years. As long as your portfolio keeps rising, you get from $1 million to $1.5 million, suddenly 40 goes up to $60,000. You get to $2 million, that's $80,000 per year. You can definitely live a comfortable life with $80,000 per year. Now, where are you going to get the $1 million from? You can play around with a compound interest calculator and change around their interest rates and for how many years you're putting in how many dollars. But let's just say you got $1,400 from the stimulus check. So you put that $1,400 in cryptocurrency or in index funds, and then every single month you're doing, let's say, dollar cost averaging for Bitcoin. You're putting in $700 or you're putting in $700 into index funds. And let's say you do this for the next 30 years. Let's say you're 20 years old right now. You're going to be 50. I'm 23. This would be 53 for me, with an estimated interest rate of around 7% per year. And after 30 years, you would have $804,127. So the other $196,000 that you would take out of somewhere over 30 years, maybe that's in cryptocurrency investments, and $800,000 came out of index funds. You might be wondering to yourself, well, $700 or $800 or $1,000 per month, that's a pretty big monthly contribution. The $1,400 from the stimulus check, I can understand that. Many middle-class families can do that. For 30 years, that's a long time. And what about 7% interest rate? This is good for index funds because index funds, like I said, stocks and all this stuff, usually it averages out well above that. So even with adjustments for inflation, you're well above that, usually over 10%. Now with Bitcoin, even with these huge Bitcoin winters, whereas basically every 4 years there's a huge cycle, your average interest rate per year is around 25% if you look at the long term. So 7%, that's nothing. If you got 8% instead of 7% with $700 monthly with $1,400 initial contribution at 30 years, the difference would be over $160,000 additional on top of that. And at that point, you're able to withdraw 4% and live a pretty comfortable lifestyle in addition to doing a part-time job or doing something else, and you're definitely making over $40,000 per year. Now you're probably thinking, well, wait, what about taxes? If you contribute $6,000 per year, and probably in the future is going to grow, into a Roth IRA, the taxes are already paid up front. And then 401ks, sure, you have to pay taxes later on that, but those are retirement accounts, and you can't really take that out when you're 40, 50, 30 years old without paying huge penalties. So we're discussing about potentially in cryptocurrencies or in index funds outside of the normal retirement account options, where with most of these, you have to pay taxes up front, and you're probably thinking to yourself, well, $700 per month, that's quite a bit. But if you only invest 20% of your salary, and we're talking about a salary that after taxes, so you already paid taxes on this, $700, 20%, multiplied by 5, that's $3,500 after taxes. There's a lot of people in the Chicagoland area that make well over $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 after taxes. $3,500 after taxes, that is $42,000. So let's say you get taxed at 20 or 30%. $56,000 at 20% would be $44,800. My girlfriend is finishing up her studies right now, and if she's going to be working in HR, as someone with zero experience or just 1 year of experience, if she's going to be living and working in Poland and then moving over to America with 1 year of experience, she's going to be making well over $60,000 in the Chicagoland area. And as someone grows their experience, they're easily able to make more. I'm interested in programming. There's so many programmers that make outside of Silicon Valley over $100,000. In Silicon Valley, it's like crazy. You're going to have $200,000, $300,000 plus in New York City. But there's plenty of jobs out there that you'd be surprised. My teachers from high school, I checked how much they're making. Gym teachers, these guys were making sometimes over $100,000. It all depends on how many years you're working. The garbage man, the postman, some of these people, you may not expect it, but they're easily earning $3,500 or more. And this is after taxes per month. So you might think I'm crazy. Invest 20% of how much you earn. But coming from someone who has already lost a fair bit of money and who bought himself a Rolex and Louis Vuitton and traveled around the world and did all that, it's all useless crap. Maybe except the Rolex, because that grew in value, so technically it wasn't a liability. I made money even with it being scratched. But almost everything that you're purchasing is crap. I've not purchased a TV in years, so if you're renting out something, fantastic. You usually get a TV for free. I'm not going to be purchasing a TV when I move in or in the future when I'm going to have my own house or apartment, because I don't use that crap. I don't have a microwave. All the furniture, everything that I have, except for the chair from IKEA, which is like $200, every single time I move into an apartment and I'm renting, there's always furniture. I know in America that not every apartment has furniture, but I'd only buy a bed and a chair and a table for recording, and that's that. So take it from me, trust me on this. The most important thing is financial independence. Instead of buying yourself a brand new BMW X5, buy yourself an old one if you want, as long as you check out which engines are reliable. Don't buy a lot of your stuff new, buy used or secondhand. Maybe find a secondary hobby such as reselling, where you're able to always get an extra $500 or $1,000 per month. For a lot of people, you're able to put in $500 to $700 per month. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. My main goal when I move back to America, which is coming up in the next few weeks now, as soon as I get a job, every single paycheck, I'm always going to be saving a little bit to invest. So that's going to be going into cryptocurrencies, but definitely I want to start my retirement accounts and have a normal account for investing into stocks right now. At first, I'm not going to be making a lot of money, so it's only going to be a few $100s per month. But if I was making $3,000 or more, I'm definitely going to be putting in more than $500 per month into investments. There have been months before where I have put in more than 50 or 60 or 70% of what I had into investments. So you also don't want to go overboard, because I used to get paid fully in crypto. I was reinvesting almost everything. And then I started using my credit cards when emergencies would happen or when crypto was suddenly falling. So you don't want to invest too hard, but 20% and a withdrawal rate of 4%. You can obviously adjust these numbers, but guys, you can do this. It's possible. And there's so many things that I want to discuss. So if you're new to this channel, you want to learn more about personal finance and about the many lessons that I've learned through my own financial mistakes, stay tuned, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. You do not have to be a financial genius to retire early. You just have to stick with your rules. Have a good one and comment down below your opinion.